Okay, so a massive military strike has just completely redrawn the map in the Middle East. What we're going to do here is break down exactly what this thing called Operation Epic Fury is, why the US and Israel decided to launch it, and what on earth it means for the rest of us. So let's set the scene. The date is March 1st, 2026. This is when the United States, working hand in glove with Israel, unleashes this just massive military campaign against Iran. We're talking about hitting their nuclear sites, their missile facilities, and their naval infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. And right away, there was a human cost. It was immediate. Within just the first 24 hours, U.S. Central Command had to confirm it. Iran's first wave of retaliation had killed 6 American service members. So this immediately throws up the central question we really need to dig into here. Was this, as the White House is telling everyone, a necessary move to stop a major threat, or was this an illegal war, launched without anyone's permission? So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll look at the operation itself, get into the White House's side of the story, then unpack Iran's really interesting response. After that, we'll dive into the legal mess it's created, and finally look at what's really at stake for everyone. All right, so first things first, what is Operation Epic Fury? Well, at its core, it's a huge, coordinated air and missile assault on Iran. And again, this was launched by both the United States and Israel, kicking off on March 1st, 2026. Okay, so how does the White House even begin to justify an operation this big? Well, they're framing it as something they had to do. They're pointing to what they call 47 years of Iranian aggression, basically saying, look, diplomacy failed and our hand was forced. And, as you'd expect, that official line got picked up and amplified by supporters in Congress almost immediately. Take Senator Lindsey Graham's statement here. It's a perfect example. He's framing this as this historic knockout punch that could actually bring down the whole Iranian regime. And then you have Senator Ted Cruz, who took it even a step further. He called it the single most important decision of the entire presidency for making America safer. So the message from the supporters couldn't be clearer. This wasn't just another military action. This was a defining moment for American security. So if you look at the official press release, the White House laid out 4 big goals. Number 1, get rid of the nuclear threat for good. Number 2, destroy their arsenal of ballistic missiles. 3, weaken their network of proxy groups across the region. And 4, basically cripple their naval forces. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. Iran's response. See, they didn't just come back with one big all-out counterattack. No, what security analysts are seeing is something much more sophisticated. It's this carefully calibrated strategy across multiple fronts, all designed to hurt the U.S., but, and this is key, without tipping things into an even bigger, more catastrophic war. And the name for this kind of strategy? It's classic asymmetric warfare. It's what you do when you know you can't win a straight-up head-to-head fight. The weaker side uses unconventional tactics, things like cyber attacks or using proxy fighters, to hit the stronger guy right where it hurts, right in their vulnerabilities. So analysts have pretty much broken down Iran's retaliation into 4 main layers. You've got the first layer, kinetic strikes. That's just a fancy way of saying direct attacks with missiles and drones. The second layer is cyber disruption, going after critical infrastructure. The third is firing up their proxy networks. And the fourth? That's all about cozying up to countries like China and Russia for support.
And that kinetic response, it came fast and hard. Iranian missiles and drones started hitting U.S. bases all over the region. We're talking Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait. It sent a very clear message. Tehran sees every single U.S. base as part of one big target.
But the other fronts are just as important. In the cyber world, you've got these advanced Iranian hacking groups, APT-33, APT-35, just waiting to hit critical U.S. infrastructure. Then, through their proxies, like Hezbollah, Iran can carry out attacks and maintain some level of deniability. And on the world stage, that alliance with China and Russia, that gives them a really powerful diplomatic cover. But while all this was happening overseas, a completely different kind of battle was kicking off right here in the U.S. And this one wasn't about missiles, it was about the law. A huge, fierce debate over whether this whole operation was even legal to begin with. And really, the debate boils down to 2 very different arguments. On one side, you have the White House saying, hey, The president is the commander-in-chief, and he has the constitutional authority to do this to protect the country. But on the other side, you have critics saying, no way, this violates the Constitution, it violates the War Powers Resolution, and it even violates international law under the UN Charter.
And look, this isn't just politicians yelling at each other. You've got real experts weighing in. Rachel Van Landingham, she used to be the chief of international law at U.S. Central Command, says this attack absolutely triggers the War Powers Resolution. And what that means is the White House was legally obligated to tell Congress within 48 hours. Critics are saying that just didn't happen correctly.
And then, beyond all the legal arguments, there's the heartbreaking human cost. Early reports are coming in that a single U.S. strike hit a girls' primary school. 100 civilians gone. This is, as you can imagine, raising some really urgent and terrible questions about the conduct of this war. So, where does this all go? What are the long-term stakes here? Well, the fallout from Operation Epic Fury could easily spiral into a much, much bigger war. And maybe even more surprisingly, it could have some really shocking consequences right here at home. Analysts are watching a few key things, red lines really, that could tip this into a full-blown regional war. Things like sustained attacks on Gulf oil facilities, or Iran trying to mine the Strait of Hormuz. But there is another fear being voiced by some critics, and it's a chilling one, that this war could be used as an excuse to consolidate political power back in the U.S., blurring that very important line between a foreign conflict and domestic politics. So what we're watching here is a conflict playing out on an absolute razor's edge. The line between what one side calls decisive action and what the other calls reckless escalation is just incredibly, perilously thin. And I guess the real question we're all left with is this: years from now, when we look back, which side of that line will history say this operation landed on?